Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Dyvonne and today I'm going to share with you how to make these homemade gorditas. Are you ready? Let's get started. These are the ingredients that I'm going to be using. I'll also share with you a list of ingredients in the description box below, as well as the recipe for these homemade gorditas. So with the homemade gorditas, we're first going to mix the dough. You want to get the dough just right. And so in my one bowl, this is a smaller bowl that I'm using at first, I'm putting in my flour and I'm scooping my flour into my measuring cup. And I'm going to be putting in 1 cup of regular all-purpose flour. I'm actually using unbleached all-purpose flour. That's what you can use, or the regular all-purpose. Either one will work just fine. I like to scoop the flour into the measuring cup because that assures me that I'm not going to have too much flour for my recipe. And then I go ahead and I level it off. So scoop your flour into your measuring cup, level it off, and then dump it into your bowl. Next, we're going to put in some baking powder. The baking powder is going to give our gorditas their lift. And so with the baking powder, I'm going to be putting in 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now, if you are new to my channel, I want to welcome you in. And if you return, I want to thank you for coming back. On my channel, I love to share what I cook and bake for my family in my kitchen, homemade recipes, scratch recipes, some semi-homemade doctored up cakes from box cake mixes, all the different things that I enjoy cooking and baking. So if you enjoy that type of content, I hope you consider subscribing. So once I have my flour and my baking powder, I mix it around with my fork to incorporate those two ingredients. Now in my larger bowl, I'm going to put this Masa Harina, okay? So we're going to put the Masa Harina, and you can find this bag of Masa Harina. It's about $3, $4 at the store, and it's going to be where they have the cornmeal. And I'm going to scoop the masa into my measuring cup just like I did with the flour. I'm going to scoop it in and also level it off. And if you haven't used or worked with the dry masa before, it's the same thing that you would use if you were making corn tortillas, if you were going to be making tamales, those types of things. This is what that you would use when you make those types of doughs. So once I have in my bowl, that was 1 cup of the masa. Now I'm going to put in some salt. And this is just regular table salt. I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of table salt. So that was the 1 cup of the dry masa. And now we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, once I have a teaspoon of salt in there, I go ahead and I use my fork again and I whisk that around. So we have our smaller bowl that has our flour and our baking powder, and then we have our larger bowl that has the masa and the salt. Now here I have 1 cup of hot water, and this is 1 cup of hot tap water. I pour that in, but we may need a little bit more because you're going to start off with 1 cup. You can always add a few drops more depending on how your dough starts to form. So once I have the hot water in there, I use my spatula, go around the bowl, and you're going to blend it, and it's going to become kind of pasty-like. It'll be a little bit pasty, and this is what it's going to be looking like, pasty, a little tacky as well. Now once I've blended that in, we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of some manteca, of some lard. If you don't have lard, you can also use the vegetable shortening. Not vegetable oil, but vegetable shortening. And so you can either use the vegetable shortening or either the manteca, which is the lard, and that's what I'm using. I'm using 1 tablespoon of that. And the manteca really is going to help that dough to come together. So whether you're using the manteca or either the vegetable shortening, you want to use that 1 tablespoon. And if you want to learn how to make homemade flour tortillas, in the description box below, I'll put a link to my vlog on homemade flour tortillas. I use my spatula and I go back and forth pressing the manteca into my dough mixture that I'm forming. Press it, go back and forth until you're blending it in, until you don't see a lot of streaks of that manteca that we put in. Once I do that, I add in the flour and baking powder mixture in with the masa mixture. Then I'm going to use my spatula again, and I'm going to press and blend. So I'm going to press, I'm going to rotate my bowl, and I'm going to blend, and I'm going to fold because I'm trying to hydrate. You want to hydrate that flour in with the other ingredients. So see how I'm pressing and bringing up my spatula? That's exactly what you want to do. Being mindful to scrape around the sides of your bowl to bring everything together into a nice cohesive dough ball that's going to be in the center of your bowl. And so I'm doing that folding motion and that pressing motion. Now you may feel tempted to add water at this point, but don't do it just yet. You really want to try your best to bring your dough together before you want to add any additional water. So keep pressing and keep blending, making sure that you're really hydrating that flour, and that pressing motion really helps with that. Now once I've seen that I've taken my dough as far as I can, using my spatula, I'm going to then get some warm water. I'm going to put the warm water, I'm going to put that aside because I'm going to switch over from my spatula to using my hand. And when I'm using my hand, in case I need to add a little bit more water, I'm going to have it right there ready to go. And so now I've got that warm water in case I need it, and I'm going to continue to gather up the dough into a nice ball. So I haven't added any additional water than just that one initial cup. So I have it prepared if I need to, but then I'm going to use my hand, and you see how now I'm really starting to press that dough really good. We went so far with the spatula with the pressing motion, and then now I'm using my hand. So I'm squeezing the dough, and then I'm pressing it down with my knuckles. I squeeze the dough, and then I press it down with my knuckles. As I'm gathering it up, I'm making sure that I'm collecting any smaller pieces that are in the bowl, and then I'm also taking that dough and rotating it around the sides of my bowl to make sure I pick up all of the ingredients and everything is in that nice one cohesive ball. And this is what you want it to look like. And also with this recipe, you can split this recipe in half, or you can also double it. But this recipe is going to make 6 gorditas. And it's nice, and it's a little tacky, and it's nice and soft. And now I'm going to share with you my little setup I have here. So here I have my piece of plastic wrap. So I have my piece of plastic wrap. I'll share with you what we're going to use that for. Then I have my cookie sheet over here, and I have 2 pieces of plastic wrap. They're kind of overlapping right now, but I'll share with you how we're going to use those. So I have my 2 pieces, I have that piece, now I have my bowl. So we're going to take our dough and form it into 6 equal balls. And the balls are going to be about the size of, say, a baseball, about like that. And if you don't have any plastic wrap, you can also use wax paper for this step. And while I was rolling out my balls, why I lose count? I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like how many do I have here? And so I was like looking, and I was like, oh my gosh. So you want to have 6 balls. It makes 6 equal balls about that baseball size. Then I take the dough and I roll it in the palm of my hand. I'm trying to work out those little creases and cracks. So roll it in the palm of your hand, and then use your fingers to pinch any large creases that you may have, any large cracks. If there's a few cracks here and there, that's fine because we will be pressing those out, but you don't want any big creases because we do want to roll it out, and in order to roll it out and have it all stay together, you don't want any big creases or cracks in your dough. Also, while you're doing this, if your dough is feeling a little dry, like it's starting to dry out on you, go ahead and just tap your fingers in a little bit of that warm water that we have to the side. Go ahead and tap your fingers with a little bit of warm water, and then that'll help your dough to stay nice and hydrated. And you see how I needed to tap my fingers in with a little bit of that water just to kind of make sure that my dough does not dry out on me. And so once I have it all together, I'm going to put my dough balls inside my bowl, and I'm going to cover them with plastic wrap because this also is going to make sure that they're not going to dry out while I roll out those dough pieces one at a time. So I have my first dough ball that I'm going to roll out, and I have it here in the plastic wrap. So what I do is I take a little bit of water on my fingers and I dab the water on the plastic wrap. I then place my dough on top of that spot, and then I dab a little water on top of my dough. Once I dab the water on top of my dough and I go around the edges with a little bit of the water, making sure my dough feels hydrated so when I roll it out, it's not going to crack on me. I fold over the other piece, having my dough nice and centered. Then I use my rolling pin, and be gentle when using your rolling pin. I'm using my rolling pin. I'm not putting too much pressure on my rolling pin. I'm just kind of trying to guide my rolling pin over my dough just to flatten it out and to make a nice round circle as best as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be about 6 inches round and about as flat as, say, maybe 1/8 of an inch, or a better visual could be if you took, say, 2 to 3/4. 2 to 3/4 are coins and you stack them together like quarters. You stack them together, and about that height, about that height is what you're looking for. You don't want it super thin. You do want to have just a little bit of a lip to it. And so once it's nice and I flatten it out to about that 2 to 3/4 in thickness, I'm going to gently transfer to my cookie sheet. And you see how I take my hand underneath the plastic. I flip over my Gordita. I flip it over. Now it's in the palm of my hand. And I'm going to put it on the plastic wrap on my cookie sheet and then cover it with the other piece of plastic wrap. That is going to make sure that it's not going to dry out while I roll out these other dough balls. And I'm going to repeat the process with my other dough balls, making sure that I do keep my dough hydrated with the taps of water. I put some water on the plastic wrap already. I put some water on top of my dough ball before rolling it out. You want to make sure that you also, the ones that you've rolled out, keep them covered in plastic, and the balls that are waiting to be rolled out, you also keep everything covered in plastic, and that is just to make sure that they do not dry out on you and start to crack, because then you need to put a lot more water on it and kind of rework your dough. So to keep from having to do that, you want to make sure that everything does stay covered. Now, if your dough sticks a little bit after you roll it out, I'm going to share with you what I do if that happens to happen. And so once I pull back the plastic wrap on this one, the dough wanted to stick just a little bit. I'm going to use my hand that's underneath the plastic to guide it, and then my thumb to just kind of flick it and pull it off of the plastic. You see how I did that? I just used my thumb and got right under there and pulled it off. Now when I get to my last dough ball to roll out, I turned on my pan. I'm using my kumal. I turned it on to get it nice and hot. If you don't have this kumal that I'm using, you can use a cast iron skillet. That's nice and dry. We're going to use a dry skillet, so you can use a cast iron skillet. You can also use a nice heavy bottom pan that you have, and you want to have this on a nice medium to high heat. And so once I have these rolled out, I'm going to share with you how to cook them. And so this is my kumal. I put my first dough, and you always start with the one that you rolled out first. And so the one I rolled out first is the one that I put on my nice hot skillet. So I have it on my nice hot kumal. I put it there just for about maybe 30 seconds or so until it starts to get a little bit brown on the outside. So it'll have little patches of brown, golden brown to brown color. And I'm also touching my dough because we're also drying it out a bit. So we want to dry it out at this point when we're cooking it. And so you see it's dried out, and it's also nice and golden brown. And so about 30 seconds to about a minute per side, no more than a minute. So my kumal is still nice and hot, and I go ahead with the second one, doing that same process of putting it on the skillet, letting it cook for about 30 seconds, maybe up to a minute. It's going to get a little toasty on the bottom with some of those brown spots. Then I flip it, and I'm touching it, making sure that it's starting to dry out. And I'm going to go ahead and finish these up. And also at this step, when you cook them on the flat top, when we're cooking them here, they're also going to get really firm. They're going to firm up, so they're going to dry out. They're going to get firmed up. And these are our gorditas that we've cooked so far. These are our 6 that we made. Now we're going to make them nice and puffy. And so this is a very quick step to make them nice and puffy. You have your nice hot oil. So I have about a couple of cups of nice hot oil, again on that medium-high heat. I go ahead, I put it in the skillet and let it really sizzle. When you put it in, you want your oil to be nice and hot. I'm going to use here my spatula, and you see how I'm pressing a little bit on the top, making sure that oil goes over the top of our gordita. And you see what happens? You see how it just puffs up? Because we have that oil that was on the bottom, and then we press down a little bit to help it puff up. That nice hot oil is going to help that gordita puff up and become that wonderful that wonderful slight crispiness around the edges, and that puff was going to create that nice puff pocket for us for our filling for our gorditas. And I just go ahead and I continue one by one, and you want to fry them one at a time. You don't want to crowd your pot. You want to go ahead and fry them one at a time in your pan. And again, I just kind of press down a little bit and give it some time. Once you put your oil is nice and hot, and once you put your gordita in it, give it that 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it'll start to puff up for you. Okay, and then you just go ahead and flip it, and we just flip it once. You don't want to flip it back and forth, you just need to flip it once. And it takes about that 10 to 15 seconds for them to puff up, and then I cook them for about 30 seconds up to about a minute per side. Now I'm going to take these out, and when I take them out, I drain them on a paper towel. I finished cooking up our gorditas. They have puffed up nicely. They smell so good. You can really smell that masa. It smells so good. They are still also very hot, and they have puffed up really well, made a nice pocket for all of our filling. I'm going to share with you my fixings. This is the fixings that I have. I have some shredded lettuce. I have some salsa taqueria. I also have some salsa verde. I have my sour cream, some queso fresca. I also made some homemade beans, and then I also have some carnitas as well that I have. And so we're going to be filling with these different things. Now the carnitas, the kind that you can get in the grocery store or at Costco that's already made, and all I do is just fry it up and doctor it up in the skillet. And so with my beans, though, those beans were my homemade beans. And in the description box, I'll put the recipe for my homemade beans in the description box for your reference. And I'll share with you my vlog on my homemade refried beans and my homemade Spanish rice if you like to make rice. So I went on and I cut open just the side. You don't want to cut the whole thing, just the side. I'm going to fill it with my beans and also with some of that nice carnitas meat. So in the inside, I filled my pocket. Then I'm going to get some of this queso fresca cheese. You can also use Monterey Jack cheese or whatever cheese that you like. This is the one that we normally use in my family. And then I have my lettuce that I'm going to put in here. And with this, you can have it with meat. You can have it with just beans and cheese. It is really, you can doctor it up and make it to your liking, however you want your toppings or your fixings to be. And so this is mine. I've gone on and I put some tomato in there as well. Some salsa roja. I'm also going to put a little bit of this sour cream. You can use any kind of sour cream. This is the one that we use, this ranchero sour cream. So we're going to put a little bit. I just like to drizzle it right in the inside. And when you buy this, it's not as thick as some of the other sour creams that you may, get in the store. It's a little on the thinner side, so it is great to just drizzle. Well, this is our gordita. Go ahead and take your bite. I'm going to give y'all the first bite. Now I'm going to take my bite and see how we did. Oh my goodness. These are so good. The family loves these. And these are so much better than the ones that we would get through the drive-thru. And what's nice is that with our ingredients, we can just go ahead and make as many as we need. And you can have enough where you can make them again and again with your ingredients. Well, that is it for me today. They also wrap really well to go. My daughter and my niece are going to a concert tonight, so they're going to make theirs and then wrap them in some foil and eat them on the way. Well, I hope you enjoyed this recipe share and spending time with me in my kitchen as I was making dinner for the family. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to show it some love, give it a thumbs up, and click share. Share this video with a friend or a family. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.